Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening? Welcome back to another episode. Today on the podcast, here's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the power of manifestation, specifically like, does it work, how it works. We're going to look at, a couple of principles that will ensure that it works. And we're also going to look at what the Bible says about manifestation. And the Bible doesn't talk specifically about the word manifestation, but the Bible does talk about something. And we're going to look at what the Bible talks about, because today, really, if we're looking at something that we want to apply to our life, let's go to the Bible, and so we'll see that. But before we do that, let's jump right into what manifestation is. So manifestation, right? Let's look at that. The definition of manifestation. What is manifestation? To manifest is to basically have something clear in our mind or in our eye. So manifestation is basically clearly seeing something, knowing that it's there. But here's the thing, to actually bring it about takes a little bit more specificity. Yeah, that's the word, specificity. So does manifestation work? I would say it does. Now, here's the thing. When we look at does it work, let's look at kind of like some principles behind how, well, not how yet, because we'll get into how. So to prove that it works, manifestation, the practice of focusing on one's thoughts and intentions to attract desired outcomes, is a concept that sparks debate. So think about it. A lot of times, folks are always talking about manifesting. And you're like, well, yeah, I hear you, and, I've heard about it. And does it really work? And so it says, while it's not scientifically proven, it can be a powerful tool for personal growth and achievement. So here's a breakdown. Your mindset and your belief is going to drive manifestation, because manifestation often involves cultivating a positive mindset. What is mindset? Mindset is when you put your mind on something. So if we're talking about manifesting anything, we're going to have to set our mind on something. Now, I can probably prove that everybody knows how to manifest. Everybody knows that manifestation works. Here's some proof. I remember. Here's a quick story. It's going to be fast. I remember it was 1988. In 1988, it was around August. It wasn't August. And I was filling out some papers on registration day at the high school that I went to, 1988. And at the moment, I had decided, I told my mom, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. What should I do? We was looking through, and we saw a class, and it was called accounting. She says, well, maybe you should just be an accountant. I said, accountant, what is that? She said, well, I think, they add stuff up, and they add money up, and they tell people how they're doing and financially, and you can become certified. Like, there's a big test that you can take. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I says, I'm going to be an accountant. And I'm going to go to college and be an accountant. Do you know I manifested that? How did I do? So I know it works because I set my mind on a target. I set my intention on what it is that I thought I could be. And I said, I can be an accountant. And the moment I said it, I set a goal. Something all of a sudden got into action. I was motivated. I was moving towards. So I know that manifestation works. So it does work. So I kind of gave you the how, but let's look at how it actually works. So how does manifestation works? Manifestation works because it's all about focusing our thoughts and feelings. I'm going to stop right there. Feelings. Do you know feelings? drive everything when it comes to our life? How we feel about something? Like you could wake up and say, I just don't feel good. And because I don't feel good, I don't want to do something. And so because I don't want to do something, I don't get something done. So feelings could be the thing that's literally holding us back from manifesting our dreams and our desires. Feelings, right? Because when we focus or when we're not focused on the right feeling, think about the feeling. The feeling that I had that I would be an accountant. Here's the thing. It wasn't even really emotional, except that I just put my eye on. I just set the intention. It says that's what I'll do. That's who I'll be. Like that's the profession that I'll go into. Because it sounded like it would be okay. Like, I didn't look at it as a dream. It wasn't a dream, but I sure did manifest it just by setting my sights on it. So focus on your thoughts, feelings, and actions towards a specific goal with the belief that this alignment can attract desired outcomes in our life. So, desired outcomes. Do you have a desired outcome? Say if you could manifest anything today, what would it be? Anything. If you can manifest anything today, what would it be? I already have some thoughts about what mine are. If I can manifest anything today. What does it say? Manifestation works when we focus our thoughts, got a thought, our feelings. Now, the actions. Let's look at actions because actions is where we find faith. See, we have a thought, then we have a feeling of something that we'd like to have or a desire that we want to achieve. But the action is what makes the manifestation. See, you don't have to do everything to manifest, but we do have to do something to manifest. I'm going to say that again. We don't have to do everything to manifest, but we do have to do something to manifest what it is that we're desiring the outcome. Let's go back to the story of being an accountant. If I did not enroll in college, I could not have become a certified public accountant. I had to get a degree. And I had to pass certain classes in order to be eligible to take the certified public accountant's exam, which ultimately was my intention. Yes, I would get a degree in accounting. Certified public accounting exam is where I will finish. I will finish there. So what if I went to school, got a degree, but never went to the test? Oh, I wouldn't have been a certified public. I couldn't have even possibly passed the test. Well, the test is going to be hard. I heard so many people tell me how hard the test would be. I heard so many people tell me that, man, it's like passing a bar. I heard so many people say, man, most people that take the test, they don't pass. I heard so many people say, man, there's people still taking the test and they still haven't passed. It's been like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They've taken it so many times, they still can't pass. I heard so many stories about tests. And then I also heard a story in my own mind that says, man, you're not good at standardized tests. Man, you never do good on standardized tests. Man, standardized test is kind of hard. I'm hearing all kind of things, and then I found a way. See, when you manifest, sometimes you do have to find a way. See, because my intention kept bringing me to a point where I took the test and I didn't pass. I said, well, the first time I said, well, I didn't pass because I didn't really study. So I had now. So then the second time I said, I'm going to take this test, man. But I got to pass. I really, my intention is to pass when I take this. So now I said, well, I asked the question, how can I pass this test? How is it possible? I'm looking around. I said, well, you know what? I heard about these classes, these courses that you can take where you can basically study for a few months by, with the direction of an instructor, and they would show you how to pass the test. And I'd heard about these, and because my wife at the time, my wife today, but she was my girlfriend back then. I remember she'd taken one and she didn't particularly like it. She says, I'm not sure if that one worked. No, I can't say that it didn't work, but I said, I'm going to keep calling around. I called around. I found one in the yellow pages. This was before, there wasn't a lot of Google stuff going on. I can't remember how I found this guy. So I found this guy and I called up the office and he says, look, if you follow what I tell you to do, you'll pass the test. I said, I found my guy. And here's the thing, that action pulled me towards what it is that I was intending to do. And here's the thing, I just followed what he said blindly. I didn't even know him, but he had certainty. Because he had so much certainty, I decided that this is something that I'm going to do, and I'm just going to use the certainty that he had. So I didn't really have any faith, except the fact that I think he has faith. I think that he knows a little something about this. So I'm going to use his faith. I'm going to use what he's telling me to go into action so that I can get my desired result, which was passing the CPA exam. I did pass the exam. I've shared that story many times. And I passed the exam because I moved into action. See, my intention was to pass. My intention was that I was going to do something. I focused on it. I visualized it. And I put myself in alignment with the right actions that would take me exactly where I wanted to be ultimately, which was to have not just to have the certificate, but to be certified as a public accountant. So when we're talking about, does manifestation work? It does work. How does it work? I just shared with you how it works. Now let's look at what does the Bible say about manifestation. Like I said, it doesn't talk specifically about the word manifestation, but I love what it says in Matthew. It says in Matthew 21 and 22, it says, and whatever things you ask in prayer, believing you will receive. Believing you will receive. You have to believe that once you ask, you see, sometimes belief is not even strong enough. Belief is not always strong enough to get us where we'd like to be. You do have to have some belief. Here's the thing, the more you can believe something, the more you know that this is going to happen. So we have to go from, okay, it says, whatever I ask for in prayer, I'm going to pray. What is prayer? What is prayer? Prayer is like going into a place where you are starting the manifestation process. And a lot of times we're praying, right? And we're praying to God. Where is God? This may be controversial, what I'm about to say. Where is God? God is within you. So what if I told you were praying to yourself? Oh, I'm not sure if I've ever heard anybody say it like that. You are praying to yourself? Yeah, because it's not like God's out. It's not like God's outside of me. God is not outside of me. God is within me. So let's put this prayer thing into perspective. It says, whatever things you ask in prayer of yourself, all you have to do is have a little belief and you will receive it. Are you telling me I have the ability to tell myself yes? I have the ability to tell myself yes. Wow. That's deep. You and I have the ability to tell ourselves yes. We have the ability to tell ourselves yes. Wow. Proverbs 16:9 says, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Wait. Now, this sounds like this is outside of me. The Lord is outside of me. The Lord is directing my steps. However, the Lord The owner, where's the owner? The owner is within us. The owner has marked us. The owner has put his name on us. The owner is directing us from the inside. So how does one actually manifest? What is the Bible saying? If you allow the one that is within you, the one who owns you, if you allow that person to run and rule your life, you will manifest, you will be, you will have, you will receive all the things that you are supposed to receive. See, guys, we don't get to receive everything. You don't get to receive everything. I don't get to receive, if I wanted to be 7 foot, I'm 6'3". That's what I got. So there's some limitations on manifesting. There are some limitations. Some things are just outside of your pay grade. Some things are just outside of what you're able to do. Here's the thing. You are able to do 100% of all the things you were able to do when you got here. Say it again. You was able to do 100% of all the things you were able to do when you got here. So when you got here on this planet, when you came out through your mother's womb, you had the ability to do everything that you were able to do. So it's not like I have to say to myself, well, I've got to wait. No, you always could do it. You were put here, and I'm going to prove this. I'm going to prove that you were always able to do it. Now, the 2 principles that I'm going to share, and after I prove this, I want you to think about a seed. A seed. Think of a seed. What is a seed? A seed is something so small. I think we talked about a mustard seed last week, but because we're talking about impossible faith and how a mustard seed is so small. But here's the thing. When the mustard seed got here, it could do everything that it was capable of doing when it got here. The size of that mustard seed plant was going to be the size of that mustard seed plant based on what was already in the seed. So the seed did not have to become something else in order to produce the thing that it was supposed to produce, which is a mustard plant. Here's the thing about the seed. Jesus even talks about this. He talks about seeds. He talks about the growth. He talks about how some can grow 30, 60, 100-fold while others don't grow at all. The 2 principles that will help the seed to yield its crop. Well, the principle for the seed is the atmosphere. I'm going to say the atmosphere for the seed. The atmosphere for the seed. What is atmosphere? So atmosphere, when I looked it up, first it talks about the gases surrounding the planet. But then I got to the pervading tone, mood of a place or situation. So let's put this in perspective when we're talking about an atmosphere and we're talking about a seed. If the seed is in the wrong atmosphere, the seed cannot grow. So if I put the seed in sand, seed's not going to grow. If I put the seed on the concrete, seed's not going to grow. The seed has to go into dirt. That is the atmosphere that produces a seed. Now, here's the thing. Depending on the dirt, depending on where the dirt is, depending on sunlight, depending on the rain, it just depends on that. That will probably dictate how that seed will grow, the timing of everything. If it doesn't have dirt, it's not going to grow. When it does have dirt, it is guaranteed to grow. So let's think about this, right? Let's think about this manifestation thing, right? You came here already packaged, able to do everything that you were able to do when you got here. So, but here's the thing. If you came into the wrong atmosphere, if I came into the wrong atmosphere, then how am I going to produce? See, sometimes we think the wrong atmosphere was growing up on 122 South 7th Street or 77 Orton Street. No, that wasn't the wrong atmosphere. That was the perfect atmosphere, because that atmosphere, what it did was create the person that I am today. And the person I am today is amazing. The person I am today is able to now do the things that I'm doing because of of the atmosphere that I came through. Now, here's the thing. Are there times when you're in the wrong atmosphere? Absolutely. And so we reap that. But something like, oh, I was born, 77 Orchard Street in Newark, New Jersey. I lived on 122 South 7th Street in Newark, New Jersey. Those atmosphere. Oh, that wasn't bad. Even though it was a bad neighborhood. Even though there was things happening in the neighborhood. But here's the thing, the Lord placed me there. That was my environment. That was my atmosphere that produced this guy. That's interesting. So a seed doesn't eat dirt. So that atmosphere is like my dirt. By living in that time period, in that city, it gave me a context of something so that I can do something today based on who God said I was before I got here. So you come into that atmosphere. I came into that atmosphere because that's where God needed us to be. It produced my parents. It produced me and my brothers. And we all benefited from it. It's atmosphere. So manifestation, the best part of manifestation, you will need the right atmosphere, the perfect atmosphere. So we looked through, does it work? We looked through how it works. Now we're looking at the atmosphere and how the atmosphere helps to produce. Now this last one here, this one is not the same as how a seed grows. A seed grows in the dirt. Seed doesn't think. A seed doesn't actually have an idea. But you, my friend, have an idea. You are an idea. And because you are an idea, in order to produce that idea, the way that the idea needs to be produced, you need something called a psychology. Psychology. What is that? What is psychology? So I looked it up. They call it the scientific study of a human mind and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. So this is scientific. Yeah, psychology is scientific, but let's talk to the people who like simple things and understand things that just in plain language. It says psychology, your attitude. Ooh. So if I'm going to manifest something, I just have to have the right attitude. That's what Jesus said. He says, what did Jesus say? He said in Matthew 21:22, whatever things you ask in prayer, believe and you will receive. So that is an attitude. You've got to have an attitude of receiving it. See, attitude is interesting because remember we talked about manifestation and feelings, and we talked about how feelings drives it. Our feelings will drive kind of like the day. Like I can wake up and say, I don't feel so good. I don't feel like going to the gym, man. I don't feel like getting up. Because feelings drives our action. But guys, I'm learning today. I'm learning. Every podcast, I'm going to share some backstory and kind of like insights in the podcast. Every podcast that I do, everyone, there's not one that I didn't do it this way. God gives it to me just before I come on. Like literally, I made 15 minutes and he's giving me a whole teaching of something that was already in me. Come on now. See, this is in real time. So God already placed this on the inside, helping me to pull it out. But here's the thing. I have to be willing to have an attitude that accepts that I know is there. Come on now. I'm not believing. I don't believe I can do this. I know I can do it because all I got to do is say, I'm going to do a podcast. Okay, great. What are we going to do it? What are we going to do? That's what I say. What are we going to do a podcast? I don't have. So the physical part of me says, I don't even know. I don't have a clue. Then the one on the inside says, oh, I got something. Oh, okay. But manifestation. Oh, the power of manifestation. Oh, let's look at this. Does it work? And, how does it work? And what does the Bible say about this? And, oh, wait a second. What are some principles that will help with manifestation? And boom. you can manifest as fast or as slow as you like. I'm teaching myself right now. Guys, have you ever prayed for something so big that it almost makes you afraid, because what if you get it? So I've prayed and I've asked. I've prayed before. This time it's different. This time it feels different. It feels like, you ever heard in the Bible, I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's in the Gospels, and one of the Gospels says, and in the fullness of time, God sent Jesus. What does it mean? It was at the right time. He didn't come before, he didn't come late, but it was at the right time. Sometimes to manifest our desires, our dreams, it just has to be the right time. And if it's not the right time, then you gotta wait. But I feel like this is the right time, not just for me, but for somebody else. You've been searching for a while. You've been praying. You've been ideating, and you've been thinking, and you've been, seeing your future, and you've been looking at things. But here's the last thing I'm going to say about this that I believe has held most of us back. The past. The past. Literally, the past has held most of us back. What do I mean by that? The past is something that already happened. But the crazy thing about the past and the crazy thing about the future, the crazy thing about the present is because the present, I go from, I went from the present to the future, but I'm in the present again. Now, the thing about the past is that why would I walk backward? Why would I walk backward to something that already occurred? So it's kind of like, if it already occurred and I didn't like it, why am I going to relive it? Why am I going to keep bringing that forward? So many of us, we haven't manifested because we keep bringing the past forward. I love what Paul says about this in Philippians 3 and 13 and 14. He says, look, one thing I do, he said, is I'm forgetting the things which are behind, but I am pressing towards the things that are in front, which is the prize. So Paul says there's something in front of me that's more compelling than the things that are behind me, and that is where I'm headed. That's how I'm going to live today. That is how I'm going to manifest the life that I've always dreamed about. That is how I'm going to do all the things that I know I can do. That is the essence of using this power of manifestation so that we can get to our dreams, get to our goals, get to our visions, ultimately get to exactly where God called us. Let's not forget what it says in the word in Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. So when we're manifesting, what we should be praying for is God's purpose in our life to come to our present today, so that his purpose would manifest and be clear to all who see us. That is the power of manifestation. My name is Jim, I'm a healthy accountant, helping you to account for your life. Thank you for joining us. Look, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. God bless.
This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.